No time to sit this one out. It's time to get on my feet. Rise up and move to the rhythm of my pounding heartbeat. Passions are fired up. I will not fade away. Thunder driving through me. So much to do and say. Wake up, shake up. Step up, step out.
Hi, I'm Mary Ewell, and welcome to MPA Today. It's our second week of listening to video footage from the September 8th Rise for Climate Jobs and Justice rally. This week, we're going to hear from 3 additional speakers. The first one being Phil Suter. He came representing the business community and to let everyone remember that change can be difficult and sometimes and oftentimes a bit slower than we would like it to be. So let's go ahead and listen to Phil.
Our next speaker is Phil Suter. Phil is the president of the Greater Keene Chamber of Commerce, which represents hundreds of local and regional businesses and jobs. Phil.
Thank you, Emily. Before I get started here, I want to follow your instructions about tweeting, so I'm going to do it from this angle. So if everybody waves or whatever, there you go. Okay, that'll be a different perspective. I want to thank everybody for who's been involved in organizing the event today. It's very heartening on a Saturday in September to see this many people come out on these topics. They're important issues and themes. Whether we act or whether we don't act, they define us. So the fact that everybody's here is a good sign. I'm one who lives and works in the Monadnock region, and yes, I'm a person who works with the business community, quote unquote, business community every day. That's a little bit of a different perspective than you may hear from others here today and otherwise. But I'd like to suggest 3 points to think about with respect to the business community and these topics. First, many in the business community care deeply about these issues, and perhaps nowhere more than in the Monadnock region, where we are thoughtful and collaborative about our future. Second, there are already many examples of businesses in the region that are engaged on these issues, whether through their business practices or in public policy discussions, debates, and action. Whether it's at the county or municipal level, City of Keene or Town of Peterborough and other towns are good examples in this region, or in the actions of such companies as Filtrene, Badger, Green Energy Options, Revision Energy, and many, many more. Third, change is hard. Change is challenging, and it takes time. But we know it can happen because it's happened before. Think back to the first Earth Day, decades ago. The result of that event, that single day, yielded tangible results over many years. Some of those results are in jeopardy now, but I know that it can happen again. But we need to continue to act and continue to tell our stories. This can be our brand as a region, as a city, and as a state. I'd like to just mention one and close with one thought about one regional initiative. A number of years ago, Vermont Yankee announced that it was closing its plant, not too far from here. In strict economic terms, the closure had some significant negative impacts, including the loss of jobs in our part of New Hampshire, as well as in Vermont and Massachusetts. But out of that came an unprecedented tri-state initiative called the Ecovation Hub, which asked the simple question of whether those jobs might be replaced by jobs in a regional clean economy. Could our part of the world be a leader in clean economy innovation, economic growth, and job creation? Could we become a kind of Silicon Valley for clean energy activity? It may be too early to say if that will happen, but it's not too early to say that it's possible. So thank you, and remember the theme of today's event is to change everything, we need everyone. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Phil. I think some of his important takeaways is reminding us that Earth Day over 20 years ago, since then we've seen real change. And we have to remember that change is hard. We also should be inspired by the fact that the Vermont Yankee closure helped bring about a tri-state initiative. And we need to ask ourselves, how are we going to help this initiative become a success and New Hampshire become a leader in renewable energy? The next speaker we're going to hear from is Bob King. He is an engineer and an owner of a renewable energy source. So let's give a listen to Bob and see what he has to say on the important subject of climate, jobs, and justice.
Our next speaker is Bob King, much appreciated local conservationist and president of Ashlot River Hydro Incorporated. Bob.
Thank you, Emily, and thank you, everybody. Can I get this a little higher? Let's do that so we don't have to couch. Well, I don't know if I can be nearly as inspirational as the preceding speakers, but I'll do my best. I'm just a lowly engineer, so I'm going to talk to you about the nuts and bolts of the situation. But let me start by telling you my family and I were just in California backpacking for a couple of weeks in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Thank you, Sierra Club, for protecting that beautiful area. But we were reminded that in California they've suffered through 5 years of drought, followed by a year of record precipitation and lethal mudslides, followed, of course, this year by record-breaking wildfires. And everyone knows, everyone who cares to listen knows that these are all exacerbated by climate change. And what has the state of California, the 5th largest economy in the world, done about this? They took their goals for 100% renewable, zero carbon energy, and they advanced those goals. They said, we got to get this done sooner. Okay? And so if California can do it, I think New England can do it, New Hampshire can do it, Keene can do it, 100% renewables. That's what we're after. Another thing I was reminded of in the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains was that California's original electrical system was all based on small hydro up in the mountains. Similarly, in New Hampshire and in Keene in particular, the electrical system was all hydro-powered. And in 1915, Keene's electric railways, the lights, everything was powered by hydro. Electricity was taking off at the time, and Keene Gas and Electric wandered over to Marlboro and found a beautiful site for what would be the biggest power plant in the county, and it more than doubled the capacity and really sort of brought Keene into the electrical age. Again, 100% hydro, 100% clean, 100% local. That plant was in Marlboro. It's called Minnewawa, and I now own it today. It's a beautiful little site. And thanks to Molly Kelly, does anybody know Molly? Thanks to Molly Kelly, who spearheaded the passage of group net metering 5 years ago, we are allowed to take the energy from Minnewawa Hydro right there in Marlboro and sell it locally. We sell it to the town of Marlboro, we sell it to Keene Ice, we would like to sell it to Keene, we sell it to school districts as far away as Derry. So that's group net metering, and I'm going to talk to you a little more about that in a minute. We also own some hydro in Winchester, bringing our total in western Chester County to about 3,000 kilowatts of hydropower. Now, just to put that in perspective, that's about half of Keene's peak demand. And solar installed up to date in the area is about 500 kilowatts. So I say that not to show how powerful the hydro stations are, but to challenge my solar friends, Dan Weeks, everyone else, Solar Source, to ramp it up. Let's have solar take over hydro within 5 years. Let's have every flat roof in Keene covered with solar panels in 5 years, okay? That's what we need if we're really going to reach this 100% goal. So there is still a little bit of hydropower that could be tapped in western Cheshire County. Obviously, we want to leave our remaining wild rivers wild. Nonetheless, there are flood control dams, there are other abandoned mill sites. You know, we could milk probably another 1,500 kilowatts out of local hydro, which would make a difference. Even better, in fact, the best resource to make that hydro and all the solar we're going to see, to have it be a bigger part of the pie, is to shrink the pie by using negawatts. Who knows what negawatts are? That's with an N as in Nancy, negawatts. Negawatts is where we shrink our entire electrical pie through conservation and efficiency, and you know, maybe take the United States, the highest usage per capita, down to the level of Germany, which I think is 1/4 of what we use per capita. So that's really what we need to do. So folks, how do we get there? How do we get all that solar on roofs in the next 5 years? Has anybody heard of SB 446? Yes! Okay, I'm glad nobody stole my thunder ahead of me on this. There was a huge rally in Concord 2 days ago in support of SB 446 and SB 365, which I realize isn't quite as popular. But 446 will increase the net metering size limit from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts, and it'll really take New Hampshire into the modern age, you know, sort of up there with Massachusetts and California as far as large-scale deployment of medium-sized solar farms. And we've absolutely got to pass this bill. It was passed in the House and Senate several months ago through a strong bipartisan majority, and then our wonderful governor vetoed it. So, well, why was that? Well, in part because he's advised by Greg Moore of Americans for Prosperity. Greg Moore's former boss, Bill O'Brien, our wonderful former Speaker of the House, who is the chief lobbyist for Edison Electric, which represents the large utilities, and of course Michael Sununu, who works for Eversource, and everybody else who will pay him enough. All these guys are advising Chris Sununu, you know, against net metering. So Chris Sununu is living in the dark ages, and this is why we need to override the veto of 446. The vote is next Thursday. What we need everybody to do, here's the nuts and bolts, is call every legislator you know, particularly in the House. The Senate's in pretty good shape, and encourage them to carpool, get in a car with their other legislator friends, drive to Concord, because there's really no incentive for them to go there other than the incredible importance of overriding 446. So again, call everybody you know who's a legislator, get them up to Concord next Thursday. In particular, Rockingham and Hillsborough counties, if you have connections there, those are the weakest counties right now. Cheshire County's in pretty good shape. So that's what we need you to do if we want New Hampshire to have a solar future. Let's see, I've probably taken my allotted 3 minutes. Oh my goodness sakes. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's override that veto.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Bob. And I think one of his takeaways is California is doing all sorts of work with renewables and bringing this country forward and showing a model for renewable energies. The one thing that is a bit disappointing that Bob referenced that didn't happen was the SB 446 was not overturned. The veto did stand from our governor, and so large solar arrays are harder for people in group net metering to put on buildings or to put on their land. And that's a bit disappointing if we want to look to the future. Our final speaker is Julie Mudd, and she's representing Tesla Motors, and she really talks about where Tesla has been and where Tesla is going. So let's listen to Julie.
So our next speaker is Julie Mudd. Julie is attended Keene State College, and she has a varied career, but now she's a field energy advisor for Tesla. And I just want to say that when I need to, a positive person to, an attitude to talk about the future, then one of my people to reach out to is Julie. So here you go, Julie.
Thank you, Emily. What a great turnout. What a bunch of beautiful people. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for caring, because if we don't, we don't. So I work for Tesla. I'm excited to work for Tesla because initially when we started our foray into the industry, it was about transportation. The goal was to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transportation. We've done this. We've now given you a number of different vehicles, whether we're looking for the luxury option, whether you're looking for your A to B travel vehicle. We have it now. Now that we've focused our attention there, we've been able to tirelessly work to change our mission statement, which has now become accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Let's power our own homes from our rooftops. Let's power our neighborhood with net metering. Capping net metering will harm our neighborhoods. One person with a Tesla ecosystem. That's solar panels on the roof, we generate our own power. Now we have a battery that allows you to store it. You can charge your vehicle off of your sustainable energy. Do you have an excess of solar power that's coming to your rooftop? Let it feed back out to the grid and feed your neighborhood. The sustainability movement is real, it's now, and it's attainable. Make your way back to the ice cream social, touch the solar panels, see what they look like, get your hands on things. Sit in our Tesla Model X. It's a really incredible vehicle. You'll see it. It's got falcon wing doors that open right up. Please come down and check us out. Ask questions about sustainability. Let us help you feed your neighborhood with solar power. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming out.
I really liked what Julie had to say about Tesla changing the conversation of transportation. Certainly, since the beginning, since we saw that fantastic Tesla with the doors that open to the sky, really, Tesla has made a difference in the electric car industry. We're now seeing SUVs that are plug-ins. We're seeing minivans that are plug-ins. Things are changing and accelerating. And I think, Julie, is fair to say that Tesla had a handle in pushing us towards those electric cars. And finally, I agree with what Julie said about accelerating the world towards renewable energies. It's important for us here in New Hampshire to look at Vermont as a model for battery storage. We know that Tesla has recently taken itself from the transportation regime to putting solar panels on buildings and having battery storage, which is very small and compact and can really help local communities sustain hard weather outbreaks. There's an article in the greenmountainpower.com, okay, that talks about Vermont citizens saving up to $500,000 a year by having Tesla power walls to help draw power when it's needed from the grid. Of course, you need to have solar panels to make that happen, but I really recommend everyone to go to their website, greenmountainpower.com. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see an entry from July 2018 that talks about these savings and how we can use our own homes, our own municipal buildings, our own business buildings to help our area be more resilient to climate change. I hope you enjoyed watching this video footage from the Rise for Climate Jobs and Justice, and I hope you see me come back next week to MPA Today. Thank you.